I am currently sharing my screen, so I go back. All right. We are getting set up here live. I'm excited to be able to share with you guys our Acquisition IQ online meetings for today. And we're going to get started here in just a moment. The wonders of technology. Make sure here we're good. All right. Well, hey, thank you everybody for joining us here on the Acquisition IQ online educational forum. What we do here is every 2 weeks, we have a subject matter expert that teaches us all of the imperative things that you would need to know about growing your company, about scaling your company, about understanding team dynamics, both your pre-acquisition as well as the post-acquisition and everything through it. And today we're joined with Brad Manuel. Brad, he's been in the coaching space for over 20 years as a professional leadership development coach, understanding all the intricacies of what it takes in order to create solid relationships within a company culture and how you can leverage that as a valued tool for your company's valuation. We believe that, being able to create immense value upon an exit within your company is absolutely imperative. But before we jump into Brad's presentation, as well as everything that we have scheduled for today, I'm going to make sure that we go through what Acquisition IQ is all about and how you guys can also take advantage of what we have. So for today, we want to establish purpose and value for the AIQ network. In addition to that, we will learn more about what Brad is doing and as well as how companies can utilize that. Our network is a growing national network called the AIQ network, and we believe in having seasoned entrepreneurs in an aggregate way to be able to provide them with resources, tools, education, and connectivity amongst individuals that are investors, seasoned entrepreneurs, as well as M&A service providers that can help us walk through deals when they arise. Some of the problems that we've seen and that we continue to do our research over is really the lack of education that the seller of a company has, as well as the buyer of a company has. And we're making sure that we get out in front of this specific scenario before we have a transfer of the businesses from the older generation to the younger generation. We are creating an educational repository, and that's what we're doing today. And then also to build a trusted environment that enables us to swiftly do deals, knowing that we have access to the right people and team members.
Business world is changing, and the smartest leaders know
Here's a video of the AIQ. We've done in-person meetings all over the U.S.
built for seasoned entrepreneurs, investors, and M&A service providers. For entrepreneurs and operators, it's a place to master acquisition strategies, unlock new growth, and prepare for the ultimate exit. For investors, private equity, venture capital, and high net worth individuals, it's direct access to vetted off-market M&A service providers. From lawyers and advisors to brokers and bankers, it's the chance to plug into a trusted ecosystem and help bring deals to life. Our mission is simple: collapse the time it takes to find the right people, expand access to knowledge, and execute deals with confidence. The Acquisition IQ network, where expertise, capital and opportunity come together to create lasting value.
So that gives you a high-level overview of where we have been, where we are currently, and also where we're going as an organization. And we couldn't be more excited to be able to bring this network to the US and as well, hopefully across the globe. So here's our current traction. We successfully launched our September 3rd national conference in Salt Lake City, Utah. We actually need to update that. We have about 85 new members now. And then also we've launched our fall tour, which we are currently on in San Diego. At the moment, our next city will be in Austin, Texas on October 14th. Member-led educational forums, which is what we are currently experiencing now. And then we have a confirmed venue for the national conference in March 5th and 6th in 2026 Salt Lake City. And also, we believe in having some fun as well with our Alaska Northern Lights incentive trip, as well as the excursion up to Alaska as a part of a group. Right there, this is our fall tour. These are the cities that we're going to: Salt Lake City, San Diego, Miami. We just did Denver recently, as well as Nashville, Tennessee. As we go through, these are some of the pictures that we've experienced along the way on this fun trip. But then this is our current tech stack for people that are a part of our online community and individuals that are our private members. They have access to an off-market application that allows us to communicate back and forth between each other, and then also continually build and post various deals that can be attractive to those that are within our ecosystem. So there's a lot of value that individuals can have as a part of the private marketplace that we've created, and it's immediate access to individuals that can help walk us through deals. And whether it's a wealth advisor, a tax mitigation strategist, an investor who's looking to deploy capital, we are creating a very rich deal ecosystem that enables people just like you to be able to access. Where we are going, we've got our fall tour. Like I said, we've got our national conference coming soon, and our goal is to expand by 250 by the end of 2025. We believe with our collective efforts, we will be able to do so. So to be able to join, it's $3K per person per year. That offer for a free ticket to next year's conference, as well as included in that bundle. But right now, we want to continue to make sure that we provide you guys with the most value. And we cannot wait to welcome to the stage Brad Manuel with RSG Performance. He is the founder of RSG, is an executive coach, performance strategist, and he's been working in the industry for literally, like he said, over 20 plus years with some of the best minds on the planet. So thank you, Brad, for joining us today, providing us with your wisdom, experience, and knowledge. And I'm going to take a back seat now, and I'll stop sharing my screen, and you can start sharing yours.
Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate it. I want to thank both you and Lacey for the invite today to share with the network. I've really been looking forward to this. Let me see here. Let's get sharing going. Oh, it says send
Yep.
request.
Thank you.
Okay,
You
perfect.
have now the ability to share.
All right, here we go. Okay, let's see here. All right, well, good morning, everybody. I'm just going to jump right into it because I know I've got a little bit of time, but I really want to take advantage of the opportunity that I've been given to provide kind of some frameworks that I think are really going to help this particular group. So I know most of you spend your days thinking about deals. So you're sourcing them, you're structuring them, closing them, integrating them into your portfolio. You live in this world of models, multiples, and investor updates. So, but here's the truth. There's no spreadsheet. There's no synergy deck, no operating plan that's going to execute itself. The real lever of value creation lives in the people that are leading those businesses and how they think, how they make decisions, how they align their teams under pressure. So today I want to shift the focus from deal making to leader making. I'm going to share a couple of different frameworks, as I mentioned, that you can teach your portfolio leaders to be able to turn their one-on-ones into decision-making accelerators. This isn't theory. These are tools you can apply today. So really why this matters. You all know this already, but post-acquisition is where deals succeed or fail. And McKinsey and a few other studies remind us that most M&A failures stem from people and culture challenges rather than the financial miscalculations. Coaching is the lever that surfaces these issues faster. It's going to align people sooner, and it's going to drive execution a lot tighter. So if we want stronger returns, we need leaders who can coach for clarity. So in this, I've got a couple of different frameworks, but the first framework that I want to cover with you is this anatomy of a decision. I call this the GPS of a coaching conversation. And this may look very simple, but there are 5 questions every great decision conversation should answer. And here's the kicker. If you miss just one of these, you don't have a decision at all. You just have a discussion. So the first one that we're going to kind of dive into is this idea of where are you now? This is, as it says, help me understand the current reality, what's working, what's not, and what feels off. This particular question is going to ground the conversation that you're having with your leader. It's going to ground it in shared facts, not hyperbole, not feelings necessarily, but in the facts. It slows us down just enough to create mutual understanding before we start trying to solve problems. It's also going to signal curiosity, not judgment. So it's a tone of non-evaluation in a coaching conversation. And that tone builds psychological safety. And that psychological safety is the space where people tell you what's really going on. Again, not what they think you want to hear, but what's really going on. They're safe to be able to share that in this space. It also models awareness before you're giving advice. It also, it demonstrates curiosity before you're demonstrating any type of control in the situation. And this is where good leadership begins. It's very important that you allow that space to be able to ask that question, where are you now? The next one is, where do you want to go? What's the desired outcome? How will we know we're successful? And I can provide these slides for you, these questions afterwards. I know some of you might be keeping notes, but I can certainly provide these. This question, where do you want to go? This question forces clarity before we're actually acting. And this is important. Most leaders start solving problems before defining what they're solving for. I know I'm guilty of that. I know in my relationship, my marriage relationship, I've been married a little over 28 years, and I spent the first 14 years of our marriage hearing something from my partner and instantly going into solving mode when that's actually not what I needed to be doing. I needed to be really understanding, really listening, and sometimes that's all I needed to do was just hear them out. And then the problem was kind of presenting itself. But when we pause to define success, then we can create alignment. Everyone gets this kind of this similar picture of what good looks like, and progress stops being guesswork. So this question also moves the conversation from what's wrong to what's possible. Once you can articulate your destination, this is your GPS, you're setting your pin, the brain can start mapping how to get there. Clarity then becomes the compass. There's a great coach, his name was Arno Ilgner, and he talked about structural tension a lot. And structural tension refers to this idea that when you can hold your current awareness or your current situation where you're at in your awareness right here in front of you, and then you can hold your goal in front of you at the same time, as long as you're keeping these two in front of you, there's this natural tension that's going to pull these two disparate locations together. It's just as long as you're moving forward and you're holding these in your awareness, then they will naturally, gradually come together. And that's that idea of setting your GPS pin. The next question is, what is in your way? This question is, what's keeping us from getting there? Is it resources? Are people? Is it our mindset? Is it our process? This is the truth-telling question. It's going to bring friction into the open. It's going to allow it to kind of emerge instead of letting it stall progress. And usually that's quietly because we're not talking about it. You can't remove what you refuse to see. So by naming obstacles without judgment, you can normalize challenges and create permission for this honesty. It's also teaching this diagnostic thinking. It's separating what's actually controllable from what's not. And that's going to turn emotion into information. I don't know how many times when you've been in it, but I know that I've been in a conversation where immediately we're trying to solve a problem and emotion is in the way. And if you're familiar with it, when our emotion, when we've been triggered, it's basically we're in kind of this amygdala hijack. Our stress response is basically deterring us from having access to our prefrontal cortex. Prefrontal cortex is where we're making good decisions, where we can reason and we can do that diagnostic thinking. So as soon as we can create a space where there's no judgment, we're normalizing these challenges and we're allowing for this honesty, we can settle up and into our parasympathetic system. We can relax a little bit and we can then have access to our prefrontal cortex, that CEO portion of our brain. And again, it's allowing that emotion to turn into actual information. Every obstacle is going to carry some energy, but once it's spoken, that can become usable data. And the question transforms silence into strategy. You've probably been in a situation with leaders where you're not getting all the information. They're withholding it because they're afraid to tell you the hard truth. But as soon as you can get them to be able to talk to you in a safe space, that silence can be turned into strategy. That's the moment where that honesty becomes a genuine engine of execution. That next question, what's the solution? What options do we have? Which one do you recommend? Here we're shifting from the problem to progress, as well as this question is transferring ownership. Instead of you being the answer giver, you become this thinking partner, which is important. You're transferring this ownership over to them. They are the ones that need to be solving these problems. You're there as a guide. You're there as a resource to them, not to be in the weeds of the business. You're investing in them. You're believing in them. You need them to be able to lead. And as soon as you start solving their problems, they start getting used to that and they want to bring them to you to solve over and over again. We frame this up. We talk about this as far as your monkey. And so when we have folks come to us and they come and they sit across the table from us, they have this monkey on their back. And this monkey's bothering them. They're looking for solutions. But at the end of the day, when they walk out of the room, they're leaving with their monkey because it's their solution. It's their problem that they need to solve. Otherwise, you as a leader, as an investor, you are going to end up with everyone's monkeys. And then you're not going to have time to do the work that you are designed to do, the work that you are passionate about doing. When we can do that, advice creates dependency when you're giving this advice. Curiosity is creating ownership. And that's what we want to do. We want to be curious with our questions, and we want to be able to transfer that dependency back to our leaders. This forces critical thinking. Again, creating the space that they can feel safe enough to be able to talk about this, but at the same time, they'll be able to have access to the parts of their brain that can reason, that can make great decisions and can really think critically. They can weigh trade-offs. They can anticipate consequences, and they can choose the best path for the business. This also builds confidence because they are owning the decision. This ownership is also going to create momentum. And that's what we want in our businesses. That momentum builds a capability that they've probably never seen before. And then this final one, this is, what is your why? Why does this matter to you, the team, and the business? And this is where logic meets purpose. This connects the head and the heart. Most leaders can describe the what and the how, but few can articulate the why. So when people reconnect to why it matters, they tap into meaning, and meaning fuels resilience, their ability to bounce back when there's a setback, their ability to push forward when everything seems hard. And as a leader, they need to demonstrate that. They need to be the ones leading that out because everybody in their organization is following. So purpose becomes this emotional engine that carries the business's strategy through all those setbacks. It's how you move from compliance in an organization to conviction, from direction to drive. So we've been working with this CEO recently. He came from the VC PE world. He cut his teeth in New York working with Rupert Murdoch and the News Corp. Spent over 11 years in New York, and he served on 84 different boards. We taught this framework to him, and as we were teaching this and we got to this particular question, he needed to clarify in front of his entire leadership group, because he said, whose why? His version, based on his background, was the company's why, the shareholders' why. The why that, why would you do this? Well, because you want the job, because you want the paycheck that we're providing you. But it needs to be more than that. So we had to talk to him and we had to reframe this in that you are going to get what you're going to get from an individual if that's your focus. They're going to give you just enough to make sure they get the paycheck, to make sure that they keep the job. But if you can tap into their why, if you understand why they're showing up, what's important to them, then you have something that's really valuable. And then they're going to be able to pass this on and lead this way within their organization. So when all five of these questions are answered, you can create clarity, you can create alignment, and you create this commitment within the organization. And that's how execution is going to accelerate the growth of your organizations. You leave one out and you risk confusion. You're going to have to go back and rework, or you're going to create this stalled momentum. Without one of those, you don't have a decision. You really don't. So you really need to make sure that all five of these are answered. So as we're sitting here, I want to take a quick pause, and I want all of you to think about this. Think about one decision right now that's stuck. Maybe it's inside one of your portfolio companies. Maybe it's a leadership call you've been contemplating yourself. I want you to consider which one hasn't been fully answered. Maybe multiple questions haven't been answered. Which one hasn't been asked out loud even in a coaching call? As you think about this, that's your next conversation. This is the doorway to movement within your organization. Clarity doesn't come from knowing everything, because we just can't know everything. It comes from knowing which question to ask next in a leadership call, in a one-on-one. That curiosity is going to fuel growth in any organization, in any endeavor that you have. So I'm about to wrap up here, but once your leaders can navigate those decisions using this first framework, right? Once they have this down, This next step is kind of building rhythm. And I'm not going to spend as much time on this next one, but I'll leave it for you and you'll get it. But this is going to create repetition. It's going to create accountability, and it's going to create growth. Because when you come back to the same decision a week from now, the first question you want to ask isn't one of those five. It's simply, did you win? And this is where we teach. One of our core tenets in our coaching philosophy is we teach for performance and development. And this is this performance and development loop. And it's just these three short questions. Did you win? Why? And then you define a win for the next one-on-one. Did you win is very specific. From that one-on-one, that decision, even if it started from that decision-making process, you've identified specific things that you want them to do, that they want to do. So they're going to be very specific. Was that a win in your mind? And if so, why? Or if not, why? And in this conversation, we can start to identify and define successful behaviors with your leaders. So the first framework is to make better decisions. The second framework is to make learning stick. Right? We want them to really have this sink in. We want to help them identify the behaviors that are helping them succeed, or the behaviors that are holding them back. So here's this, this final slide. Well, not final. I have one more after this, but this framework one is going to give us a complete decision every single time. It's going to provide clarity, alignment, and commitment. And that framework two is going to not only help define behaviors, but it's going to build consistency and ownership over time. And if I'll say this as well, if you are having one-on-one meetings with your leaders every so often, I'm going to suggest you pick them up in pace. It's really hard to have consistent feedback or expect consistency when we're not making time to be able to provide the feedback that they really need. And so it could be that you have consistent one-on-ones every week, and you're able to back that off to every 2 weeks, and then you shift that accordingly. Sometimes you find a leader who's just like, I need about 2 hours of your time once a month. That's fine, as long as you figured that out. It's all going to look different based on your leaders. Your leaders are going to be different. But I'd start with creating consistency and that opportunity to get that feedback from you on a regular basis. When you and your leaders use both of these, you're going to move faster, you're going to execute cleaner, and you're going to retain their key talent longer because they're going to be applying this within their organization. They're going to be able to build the culture where coaching isn't just this bonus skill, it's a competitive advantage in their organization. So I appreciate everything that this time. This is, we teach these and other tactical skills in our resilient leadership cohort, which our next one kicks off in January. This is a 12-week highly interactive experience focused on developing the inner skills that enable leaders to apply the outer tactics that we've just talked about and strategies of great coaching. And we help leaders identify, as I recently heard Lacey refer to, help them identify their core beliefs or their underlying operating system that they live through their lives through, right? And until a leader can know what those are, even these frameworks, these tactics and strategies, really, they don't quite have the teeth until a leader can truly understand that themselves. It's powerful for individual leaders and even more transformative for teams. In fact, that CEO that I mentioned earlier, we're just wrapping up our final session with him and his top 30 leaders, all remote. In fact, we got together with them a couple of weeks ago in Florida and put them in a room. The first time this team has been together in a room ever. It was an amazing experience, but he's already shared that his team is more engaged, more aligned, and rowing in the same direction like never before. So if you'd like to learn more about these coaching frameworks or our resilient leadership cohort, feel free to text or email me and we can set up a time to connect. Nathan and Lacey, thank you again for the invite. This has been a great time. I really appreciate the opportunity to share.
Yeah, I want to open up some Q&A at the moment. I actually have a question in regards to leaders that just don't let go. How many times have you experienced individuals that may have strong leadership skills, but they have the inability and they're not allowing themselves to be able to let go? What would your advice be to somebody who has and is developing an organization or has already developed an organization, but yet they still continue to have oversight and be more analytical than they should be? Have you experienced that, and do you have any good words of advice?
I've experienced that a lot. I think that when folks go from um, from tactical, or they create an idea to leadership, then there is a sense of ownership. I was thinking about this earlier. My coaching career started in sports, and the first few years when I coached my kids in baseball and softball, I'm hyper competitive. I love playing the sport, and I realized it took me a bit, but I realized how much of my identity was caught up in the success of my teams and my players, specifically my children. And I was putting all of that onto them, and their failure became my failure. And so it created more of me wanting to control the situation. And I just worked with a leader in the mental health space. He's a vice president, and similar situation where he gets so caught up in what we call the outer darkness. These situations where they really don't matter, but he's majoring in the minors. And this is where that curiosity comes in. And curiosity isn't just something that you have or you don't. This is a cultivated skill, and I've had to develop it over the years. But when you can start asking why, when you can start really kind of spending the time with them and understanding what is it about their need to control,
Yeah,
to
that's good.
force themselves in, you're able to get some feedback, and that one question is probably going to create a bunch of other questions, but through that you can start identifying, oh, they're operating out of fear, or they're operating out of their need to identify with the results in some way. They have some other goal that they haven't communicated. And so it really goes back to the ability to ask really good questions, to really be curious.
That's what I find in extremely good leaders. They are very patient and also they are understanding of, or at least they dive deeper into the questions that they need to answer or they need answers to, which brings me to my next question here is Pete, do you have or anyone else online here have any questions as well?
I have one question, and I've
Sure.
ran into this a couple times in different positions that I've had and teams that I've led. Um, is sometimes you were at the development um, the 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 second thing that you were talking about there,
Yep.
asking them, what was your win, how, that kind of stuff. I've ran into this a couple times where their idea of a win was not anywhere near what we needed to, to advance the team or advance the project or to do whatever, right? It was like so disconnected. And maybe that's because I didn't answer the why, I didn't go through the first um, loop of questions correctly with them. But I'm just curious how you can help realign without making them feel like they failed, because that's the last thing I would want to do. But to take that, what they consider a win, into a win that we really need.
No, I love that. And I think you hit the nail on the head, Pete, is you you need clarity in terms of what a win is between everyone. Everyone needs to have a clear understanding of what the objectives are.
Yeah.
And when you create a space, instead of, and Nathan, you alluded to it earlier as well, oftentimes we get in these situations, these one-on-one coaching situations where it's very tactical, it's very quick, and sometimes it's even urgent. And so we get fast. And then it's all about solving a problem. And as soon as we show up in a space like that, we remove the opportunity to really understand what it is that we're striving for and what are the behaviors that are gonna get us there. And so when we can create that space, when we can create that relationship, and it doesn't happen overnight. And if you are if you've fallen victim to this because in other portfolio companies, then you have the opportunity to kind of slow things down. And I would say you've probably all heard it, but it's the old military adage: slow is smooth and smooth is fast. That's how we can really start to understand the business and really gain clarity and alignment with what we need to do next. But you're right. We coach for performance and development. If you have a leader who is thinking this is all about performance, then they're going to show up and they're going to be trying to perform. But when they understand that you are there to help them both perform and develop as a leader, now they feel invested in. They're going to start to offer up a bit more, and they're going to be able to see and hear what it is that you're offering. And even if you don't have all the answers, because again, we don't always have the answers, the conversation then kind of shifts, and it's more about, sometimes we expect failure. We want intelligent failure. We want to make sure that we're learning from failure. In fact, failure is experimentation. That's how we're going to get better at what we're doing. So almost creating this space of, how did we fail this week? What did we learn this week? And giving them that opportunity to really define the things that happened that worked. Why did you win? Or why didn't you win? What didn't work? And those are the behaviors that we want to try to avoid.
It's great. It's awesome.
Very good. Very good. Um, Gosh, there's so many questions. There's so many scenarios, right? There's so many scenarios that we face on a day-to-day basis on things are moving fast. We have individuals out there that are running large companies and large organizations, and things are constantly coming to them. What would be your number one advice though, as somebody who at the end of the day needs to create a very, very strong culture, and this will be our last question in essence, a very strong culture for a lasting organization? What would be your very first word of advice to those individuals?
Yeah, this is I run the risk of having some folks feel like, oh, that's foo-fooey. But
Yeah.
Google did a year's worth of research on this. They called it Project Aristotle. They looked at over 100 teams in their organization, and they came up with like 5 different criteria. I couldn't name them all right now. But the number one element, the number one um, thing that they found in every single organization that was successful was they created psychological safety within that group. And
That's good.
that is the ability for all of your players to be able to come to the table, to come to the space with their ideas. If I go back to sports analogies, I want every single player on the field to be able to show up and play their best. I need them to play their best. I need them in their role to trust that everyone else is in their space and doing their job, so that they're not thinking about, the person over in this position who's failing or not doing their job. Not to mention, when you destroy psychological safety, when you inhibit it, then you're reducing innovation in your organization. You have That's why we hire these folks. We hire them because of their talent, because of their experience that they bring to the table. But all of a sudden, when you bring them into your team and you start dictating, you
Yes.
start telling them how it should be done, and you're not allowing them to contribute in their creative way, then they're going to catch on to that immediately, and they're just going to play the role that you've been given them, and you are not going to get the best out of them. So I would say that would be the first thing that I'd think about is how do you create that psychologically safe team environment to where your culture can really kind of accelerate.
It's extremely wise. So I think we've all experienced that one leader that does exactly what you just said, is they tell you what should be done as opposed to jumping in the trenches. I always look at it like you want to go side by side with your troops, you know what I mean? You go into battle, which would be your battle of business or however you want to look at it, but you want to go shoulder to shoulder with them, and then you inspire them, and and they inspire you. I think that when you have an imbalance of power, in essence, obviously there has to be some form of structure within an organizational power structure, right? But then again, we're all human here. We all have specific needs, but also ideas, just like you're saying, in an environment that allows for that flow of information, I believe is extremely important. So, you're doing wonderful work. Thank you so much, Brad, for being able to join us today. We're gonna just wrap up here. All of this will be recorded and uploaded on YouTube, as well as within our member repository. So we're excited about that. And then we're also excited about our adventurous Alaska trip, which we just recently shared with you guys. And what we'll do is we'll end out on that specific thing, as well as what you guys can expect coming in the future from Acquisition IQ, as well as our Aquacon conference. So our national conference is coming soon. We currently have an open registration. What you have to do here is go to aquacon.live. You have to register to be approved. So it's an application process on the website at the moment for our early bird specials. But this is in essence going to be a 2-day summit where we have multiple mergers and acquisitions leaders, as well as entrepreneurs and people that are advancing business forward across the nation and global, I might say. We do have some people that are interested coming over from overseas as well. So this is our Super Bowl as a brand, but also it helps to unlock strategic relationships. It provides you guys with deal flow, as this one will have for 2 days. So, as well as a VIP dinner experience. Again, we have the Alaska Adventure Retreat. We're very excited about this one, and it'll begin on December 30th through January 3rd. This is specifically developed for reflect, refuel, and refocus, and enable you to get outside of the office, do something fun and adventurous with other growth-minded individuals. And we have a very structured approach to that. Um, that pretty much concludes our live stream for today, as well as our recording. Again, we thank you so much for your time, expertise, knowledge, Brad, and then everyone else that is either watching or will be watching in the future. Continue to follow the brand Acquisition IQ. If you do have any questions about our membership and what that entails as far as your private access and offerings that we help you achieve within our network, feel free to reach out to us at Nathan at Growth Bounce or Lacey at Growth Bounce. And then from there, feel free to apply for membership on acquisitioniq.co. Thank you so much, Brad. We can't wait to see you guys in the future.
Thank you.